Good morning, everyone. Pleased to have you here today for the first of a four-part webinar series hosted by STV. Victoria is going to kick off a 20-question survey that you can fill out during the course of the webinar. The survey is going to capture a variety of topics related to today's presentation that will help us shape the future of research, coordination, and platform designs. Great input. All those survey results will be shared. Today's theme is near and dear. It's beyond state line means, moving past siloed state-by-state approaches and building digital connected multi-jurisdictional corridors for seamless, efficient, and safe freight movement. I'm really pleased today to have with me three speakers that I've had the pleasure of meeting with for the past few weeks. We have Dr. Jianming Ma from the Texas Department of Transportation. We have Jonathan Fell from the Arizona Department of Transportation and Mr. Mark Savage from DriveWise. They have wonderful information to share about the I-10 TPAS journey, along with their role in today's topic and focus. With that, I'm going to cover a couple of things before we kick it off with Dr. Ma's presentation. So, when we kicked off the webinar, people sent in a few different questions about EV charging or automation or the state of the union for TPAS or TPIMs nationwide. And so here what you can see on the screen is the overall logistic journey map of everything that a freight or a truck goes through from port to destination. But today's focus is really going to be on I-10 in particular, and that TPAS journey, so truck parking. Not that other topics can't be woven in anecdotally, but it really is about that I-10 TPAS story. From the perspective of why does this matter, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on to keep this. That first and foremost, I mean, as everyone knows, truck parking is the #1 concern for drivers. Actually did a report just this last year for the last 4 years running. I mean, nearly 80% of drivers spend over 30 minutes each day searching for parking. The safety risks associated with undesignated parking on ramps and along roadways, and the cost is real, right? Over 11 billion is lost annually across the freight industry due to productivity losses, hour of service compliance, operational inefficiencies, and the like. I mean, as we done some research, and depending on how you cut it, there's a lot going on for TPAS and TPIMs. And so more than 20 states, I think I said half in the notes here, have some level of either operation, deployment, piloting system on the public side along interstates. And so clearly there's been a significant amount of investment. The US DOT had a press release about a year ago, citing $300 million in truck parking infrastructure related deployment. And so clearly today's conversation is very relevant to safety and efficiency of freight movement across the United States. And so with that introduction, I'd like to take the moment to introduce Dr. Jianming Ma from the Texas DOT. He's the director of the Traffic Safety Division's Traffic Management Section, overseeing statewide traffic management programs, including ITS, traffic signal systems, TSMO, and TIM. He's a member of the ASCE T&DI Board of Governors and serves on several TRB committees. Dr. Ma also chairs the Research, Development, and Implementation Working Group for the ASHTO Committee on Transportation System Operations and serves on ITS America's VITA-X and Automated Vehicles Committee. So with that, Dr. Ma, take it away.
Thank you, Ted, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Share. I guess, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, indeed. Go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again. Good afternoon, everyone. First off, a big thank you to ITS America for putting together this fantastic digital infrastructure series. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of it. A special thanks to Mr. Ted Bailey for inviting me, and to Mr. John Fell and Mr. Mark Savage. It's a pleasure to be partnering with you on this great webinar. Today, I'm very excited to share some insights on the I-10 truck parking availability system, a collaborative effort between Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. It's a great example of how states can work together to tackle real-world challenges. Here's what I will be walking you through today. First, a bit of background on how this innovative project came to life. Then, why it's so important, what challenges we're trying to solve. I'll explain how the system actually works. We'll take a look at the progress we were made so far. And finally, I'll share where each state stands in terms of implementation. Before we dive in, let me give you a bit of a background on the I-10 corridor. So let's start with a snapshot of I-10. It's the fourth longest interstate in the US, stretching about 2,500 miles from Santa Monica, California, all the way to Jacksonville, Florida. It's also one of just 3 interstates that run coast to coast. So it plays a bigger role in connecting the country. What makes I-10 especially important is its role as a major freight corridor. It links key ports on the West Coast, Gulf Coast, and East Coast. And it also connects to several US-Mexico border crossings. And here's a fun fact. About 1/3 of I-10 runs right through Texas. So everything is big in Texas. Speaking of Texas, so we're teaming up with New Mexico, Arizona, and California to roll out this truck parking availability system, what we call TPAS. So our 4 states make up the I-10 Corridor Coalition, which was formed back in 2016. The idea behind the coalition was to get ahead of the curve and be ready for emerging technologies like TPAS. And now we're putting that vision into action. So the TPAS system is designed to give truck drivers real-time info on parking availability. Basically, how many spots are open at 37 rest areas and travel information centers along I-10 across the 4 states. So this project is made possible thanks to a $6.85 million grant from USDOT's ATCMTD grant program. The I-10 Corridor Coalition went after the grant and won it, which is a big win for our 4 states. So TxDOT is the leading charge on this effort as the grant recipient, as well as the overall project lead. So why it's so important and what challenges we're facing? I guess Ted just mentioned earlier, the coalition talked with the truck drivers and dispatchers along I-10 to get their thoughts on truck parking issues. One thing stood out, about 80% of drivers said they spend over 30 minutes just looking for parking. And that lines up with what we're seeing in other parts of the country too. So that kind of delay isn't just frustrating, it's risky. When drivers can't find parking, they may end up going over their required hours of service, which puts everyone on the road at risk. With the better information and tools, driver can make smarter decisions, so they're not stuck driving tired while searching for a safe place to stop. So next, I'll explain how the system actually works. So the TPAS system is designed to help truck drivers find parking more easily by keeping track of available spots at safety rest areas and travel information centers. Here's how it works. Sensors at each site collect the data on parking availability. That info gets processed and then pushed out to dynamic parking availability signs. We call it TPAS signs, or travel information systems. In Texas, we have a drivetexas.org website, or any other third-party mobile apps, and even in-app systems. So drivers can see what's available in real time and plan their stops more safely and efficiently. In Arizona and California, they're using a system that keeps an eye on every single truck parking spot to see if it's taken. It's a super accurate way to track availability and helps reduce the need for constant manual checks. But there is a trade-off. This setup can be pricey to install and maintain. Plus, if the parking layout changes, the cameras need to be recalibrated, which adds to the upkeep. Another thing to keep in mind, this system only tracks trucks parked in the marked spaces. So if a driver parks outside of those lines, it won't get counted. So in Texas and New Mexico, TPAS uses a different approach. It counts trucks as they enter and exit the parking facility, kind of like how a parking garage works. This method usually costs less to install and maintain upfront, but it can come with higher day-to-day operating costs. The big advantage, it tracks every truck that comes and goes, not just the ones in marked spaces. Even though the system only reports how many designated spots are available, the data gives us a clearer picture of how full each lot gets over time. This will help us with the long-term planning and improvements for the trucking part. Once the parking data is gathered, it gets processed and shared through a live data feed. That feed powers roadside signs, the travel information systems, third-party apps, and even in-cab systems, so drivers can see real-time parking availability wherever they are. To keep things safe, any mobile apps using this information need to follow Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's one-touch rule, meaning that they should work hands-free with voice commands. These apps and systems are pretty smart now. They can detect a truck's location and direction of travel, and then show nearby parking options along the route. Many even able to send push notifications with up-to-date info, helping drivers make quick, safe decisions without taking their eyes off the road. So let's take a look at the progress we were made so far. So the coalition didn't start from scratch. We basically built our lessons learned from other states. And we connected with the match those states. We rolled out a multi-state system back in 2019 and held peer exchange meetings to hear what worked and what didn't. One key takeaway, consistent communication and coordination are essential for making good decisions and building consensus. To keep everyone aligned, we will set up regular meetings, including interactive coalition workshops, where we talk through system design and agree on what needs to stay consistent and where there is room for flexibility. Monthly coordination meetings, a chance for each state to share progress and lessons learned. Technical working group meetings focused on the nuts and bolts of each state's deployment. Communicator working group meetings where we coordinated outreach efforts across all 4 states involved. All the states involved agreed to use a shared data feed format for TPAS. This format builds on what the matched states developed for their multi-state system and includes 2 types of feeds. A dynamic feed that updates at least every 5 minutes to show real-time parking availability, and a static feed that provides detailed info about each rest area, like location, amenities, and layout. Using a common format helps ensure everything works smoothly across state lines and makes it easier for apps and systems to plug into the data. So the states work together to create a shared ConOps for TPAS, one that gives each state the flexibility to design a system that fits their unique needs, while still delivering a consistent experience for truck drivers and dispatchers. Every state has different rest area layouts and maintenance requirements, so it made sense to allow flexibility in how detection technologies are deployed. But from the start, the group agreed that the parts of the system drivers actually see and use, like roadside signs and data feeds, should feel seamless across state lines. So that's why the signs will look and function the same no matter which state you're in. And the data feed is being built to a common standard, making it easy to share information with other states, third-party apps, and in-cab systems. To make sure everything works reliably, the coalition also set minimal standards for accuracy and performance, so drivers can trust the information no matter where they are. And finally, I'll share where each state stands in terms of implementation. So TxDOT, we're rolling out TPAS at 16 safety rest areas and 2 travel information centers along I-10 in Texas. So the system uses basically the driveway detection. That's a smart combo of radar and video analytics to track trucks as they enter and exit parking areas. Kind of like how a parking garage works. Right now, the sites are under construction, with TxDOT districts leading the charge to get everything wrapped up and running. New Mexico DOT has already launched TPAS at the 3 rest areas and 2 welcome centers, and it's live and running. They're using a driveway detection system as well, like Texas, which combines radar and video analytics to track trucks coming in and out. The data is processed through an app called Osprey, which figures out how many spots are available and pushes that info to roadside signs in real time. What's really exciting is that New Mexico DOT is working closely with Texas and Arizona to share parking availability data. That way, drivers can get a consistent, up-to-date info across state lines, no matter where they are headed. ADOT, which John will give us detailed information about that, has rolled out TPAS at 8 rest areas across Arizona. They're using a space detection system which monitors individual parking spots. This approach helps reduce the need for on-site maintenance and operations. To make things even more helpful for drivers, ADOT's communications office has integrated TPAS with their 511 traveler information system. So truck parking availability is now visible right alongside other travel updates. So Caltrans, basically, they have TPAS up and running at 6 rest areas across California. They're using a space detection system which monitors individual parking spots using video analytics. Some of the signs, especially in more rural areas, are solar powered, which is great for sustainability, but there have been issues with the battery theft in those locations. Last, I'm going to just quickly touch on the operations and maintenance. So each state is responsible for operating and maintaining its own TPAS system. And that includes having a solid operations and maintenance plan in place to keep things accurate and reliable. To make sure the data stays trustworthy, states will manually verify truck counts at least once a day, usually during peak hours between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. So yes, it's a 24/7 effort. So operators will also keep the system updated with any changes like rest area closures or unusual conditions that might affect parking availability. On top of that, states and their vendors will handle updates to the field equipment, communication systems, and back office tools. They will also maintain the data feed that gets shared with third-party app developers and in-cab systems, so drivers and dispatchers always have the latest info at their fingertips. So if you'd like to learn more about the project, feel free to reach out to these 4 individuals. These are the state technical leads. And with that, I'll turn it back to Ted. Thank you very much.
Thank you much, Dr. Ma. Stay on camera just for a minute. There's one very straightforward question from the audience that you could answer probably instantaneously. When the API is available, will private navigation systems be able to describe to that TPAS API?
What was it? I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Will private navigation system subscriber be able to subscribe to the TPAS API once that's made available?
Oh yeah, that's the data feed, just like I mentioned earlier. The data feed for the parking availability will be shared with any third party through API. In Texas, we're going to share that through our drivetexas.org portal. So if any of the private entities they wanted to inject our data, help us disseminate parking availability information to the truck drivers, feel free to reach out to myself. I'll connect you with the right party.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ma. So with that, I would like to encourage the audience to please do submit your questions. We will answer them either live in the chat or in follow-up communication. And so next, I'd like to circle back to John Fell from the Arizona DOT. He is the Assistant District Engineer for the Southwest District. For the past 7 years, he has been leading several projects in infrastructure and development in the Operations Division, and is also responsible for all maintenance, permits, and development projects in the Southwest District. He oversees the I-10 TPAS rollout, real-time sensors, and the integration with the Arizona 511 system. And prior to joining the Arizona DOT, he was with the city of Yuma, serving in 2 positions as both the traffic engineer and the roadway engineer. So with that, take it away, John.
Thank you, Ted. Can you hear me and see my screens?
10-4.
Awesome. So thank you for the introduction. Dr. Ma, thank you for that brief history on the I-10 coalition and how our 4 states are working together. This is particular Arizona's TPAS system that I'll be going into detail with. So our overview of our truck processing system here, we wanted to make sure that we use cutting edge technology as the plans were being developed out to construction and then actually constructed in the field. You saw this graph from Dr. Ma again about vehicle detection system, the data processing information to drivers and third-party vendors as well. We talked about that truck driver and dispatch survey. We needed to understand what drivers' needs and preferences were as this system was being developed, designed, and constructed. One of the goals of this project is to make sure that accidents on the freeway don't happen nearly as often as they do. Trucks, if they're looking for parking spaces, become fatigued and they can cause accidents, which even during minor construction or accidents can cause severe backups, and it's tremendous. I took these pictures myself just last year as I was getting ready to present this presentation. ADOT bidding with the grant that Dr. Ma was talking about, ADOT matched some of that. So we had a total of $4.3 million to provide this construction project. Again, total 37 sites, 8 sites of those are in Arizona. Bid opened in May 2023. Our investment was just over $3.3 million, and the low bidder for construction came in just under $3.5 million, with 4 bidders in total. Here's a view of the typical plans of the layouts of one of our rest areas of trucks coming in and going out. You can see that we do have shared parking spaces with passenger vehicles as well. And so that's why we opted for space occupancy detection system to view each space independently count that and send that information back into our software. Again, talking about the design, you have your detection system, then you have our vendor's software. That software puts out data into the ADOT software. We get ADOT going, or information going out to the dynamic parking availability signs, and then third-party apps, and then also to our coalition states, as well as available smartphone apps. On the front end detection system, I talked about the space occupancy detection. At the beginning of the project, we did do a value engineering option that we changed the technology to primarily focus on camera detection. So we got these Bosch cameras, great warranty, great price. They were installed on all of our sites for the system detection, to get great information back into our software and then receive that information into our state database. Again, some great pictures from construction installed that show some installation of these basic poles, cameras, setups. Just some entertaining pictures of construction before and after. This is what it looks like with our cameras on the poles. Nothing but desert in the background, but it does get hot, and a lot of trucks are parking in these areas as they travel from California to Texas to Florida. No issues with the mounting, no issues so far with any accuracy or heat issues. Here's a picture of our cabinet with one of our signs housing the modem and the power supply and all the interface. It is actually a tight fit in there. Very little structural substructions needed out in the field. Here's an example picture of one of those cameras at night, showing the infrared range at night, what it looks like, and how easy you can detect vehicles in the spaces that are assigned to it. As you notice in some of the pictures, we do have CCTVs at each of the rest area. So our command center can pan and tilt with these cameras, verify the spacing, as well as look over the rest areas and just see how the data is coming and how the rest areas are acting at any point in time, 24/7 feed into our TOC center. Talking more about the software now from our vendor, from the detection system, it comes into the software. They simply programmed, how many spaces are available, which ones are filled, and which ones are left to be numbered on the board, and send that data out to those that are requesting it or those that we agreed to send it to. There's multiple data that we can pull from how soon the truck pulls in, the pulls out for each space, how often that goes in. A lot of history is available to be tracked, but right now we're just simply showing, total occupancy and spaces available. The state-owned parking module that's available from within ADOT. We can web login from anywhere. We can monitor the data from anywhere. We can perform that history trends, check for accuracy, and then back up the digital signs from in-house to command center. One of the most important things that we did when we developed this system was expansion. Yes, we started with 8 sites, but there's more than just one freeway in Arizona, and there's multiple rest areas among I-10 and the others. And so we wanted to make sure that we could expand. And one of the specifications we placed was up to 100 locations that it could handle. Again, here's a location of our dynamic availability signs that we have along the freeway from the west side of Arizona to the east side. More on that later. Arizona's got a parking availability module. This is the software. When you click on one of the rest areas, it shows the cameras. This particular location has 4 cameras and placeholders for extensions. It's showing you that it's got reported 14 and how many are available on that site. How does the data get out? Information dissemination is very important. Why spend all this money on cutting edge technology if there's any delays in disseminating the information? So we get this information shot out as quick as we can to all the signs, to our coalition state partners and their signs, our information, our third-party vendor AZ511, as well as possible third-party mobile apps, such as one that is under construction, which I would talk to in a little bit. The vendor here provided a mobile app construction at no cost to us. The name of the app is Parker Truck. Speaking with them, it is still being tested, but you can go to any smartphone store and download it. It allows you to pick what state you want to look at, which rest area you want to look at, and then clicking on that, you see what is available, and scrolling down, you do get some images of the rest area on the app to verify that that space is available, so you can plan your route up until you start exiting at the rest areas. The dynamic parking availability signs, as Dr. Mall mentioned, we had 7 along I-10. It talked about upcoming rest areas, upcoming spaces, and even connects to the states adjacent to us. So we do portray that information from California and New Mexico on 2 of our signs on each coast. The 4 signs on the left side of the state were close enough to either existing infrastructure or rest area power conduit that we were able to tie into. 3 signs on the eastern side of the state were in a more rural area, and so we had a solar power for batteries configuration in those plans to provide power for those. Again, this is the layout of the route that we have for the signs. Construction pictures of those signs, they're really big. They've got those large LED face plates on them, multiple cranes, took 1 per day almost, got their own modem on the signs that I spoke to earlier, disseminating all that information into actual digits. We tested those signs for days at a time, make sure they were visible, make sure they could be changed, and it really looked quite nice and didn't really take the driver's eye and became a distraction. We use blue signs for our rest area. Now we're using blue signs for our parking spaces at those rest areas. It blends right into our normal information guidance signs to the driver. Here's the rest of those more on the other side of the states. Again, I talked about that third-party vendor, AZ511, our 511 app vendor. We sent them this information. Currently, or previously, they had shown, the rest areas that were available to be parked at, and if the rest area was closed or not. Sending them our information through the API, they would access this data and create their own subcategories for showing drivers on their website at no cost to us. They therefore added the truck parking spaces total availability, as well as what is available to be parked in. So they added that subcategory there. In this example, 16 total spaces, 10 available truck spaces at no cost to ADOT. And there's the example picture of a screenshot that you would see if you went there right now on the website. The software dashboard, when you're on the website internally, this is what it looks like for all the parking spaces. Gives you that graphical readout so you know where those spaces are and the times that those are coming in. Looking at some of these pictures, you got night, day, great detections. We pretty much have 3 cameras at each rest area, and that's identifying which spaces are being parked in. Those of you that work on traffic signals and operations, you can create those detector boxes almost anywhere. And with the increase of AI right now, you can start counting, classifying, a lot of data out there to be taken from these cameras. You can see how this picture here actually detected the person inside the cab. It's great. You can move those boxes around if things had expanded, but you can really tell from these angles that we needed this space occupancy to see how often trucks were parking there and give adequate and accurate information to the signs and data. A few minutes later, that truck pulled out, took another screen capture of it, and that space is available. Example site images before I finish up here of our 8 sites. This is Ehrenberg eastbound. We start on the west side of the state. You can see how there are passenger cars on the back side of that. As long as you don't draw a detection box there, they come and go and they do not affect the system at all. There's Ehrenberg westbound, camera 1 of 3. Here's Bauswash eastbound. This is just truck only lot, but we do want to change technology, keep it all the same, keep it with cameras. Here's the westbound side of Bauswash. Here's Texas Canyon, more on the east side of the state now. Front view, back view, it really doesn't matter. You draw your detection boxes, and these cameras are smart enough to be able to pick up if somebody is parked there. Texas Canyon westbound. And the final 2 is San Simon eastbound. Again, this one's got passenger cars on the back side of it. And then San Simon westbound. And so all this information is coming back into our state operations. Our TOC manages all of ADOT signs, informations, highways within the metropolitan of Phoenix and suburbs, as well as now this new truck parking availability system. That data is being integrated as we speak, and we'll be able to control those signs, look at our CCTV cameras, and mention all that data to our third parties. And with that, Ted, any questions? Here's some websites on the project website, I-10 correlation website, and the AZ511 website.
Thank you very much, John. Fantastic job. There's actually quite a few questions. My encouragement for the moment is going to be to take a look at what Dr. Ma is responding in the chat, and then you can add on, given the Arizona perspective. But I will ask you one that will at least hit this one question, because this will apply to Dr. Ma as well. And the question is from Rama. What do you, as far as the supply versus demand equation, how far down that road was that evaluated for I-10, just to get a feel for, just beyond the national statistics of public versus private site, as far as how many spaces are needed along I-10? Any gut feel? Was there work done on that, or is that a follow-up answer?
Yes, Ted, great question. The I-10 coalition was looking at all these different routes when they formed themselves along I-10, because it did touch the high number of states there, high traffic. ADOT has done their own truck freight studies as well on I-40, I-17, I-10, and I-8. Our 3 major interstates going east to west and 1 north to south across Arizona. And we did a truck survey of where they are parking at, where our trucks looking for parking spaces the most. We did this with heat maps of where they're all parking at, and we found a lot of trucks on bridges, on ramps, on frontage roads. And then we got the nearest available public spaces that we had available to those hot zones, where we did increase a lot of our aprons. Some of these rest areas only had 9. And in the past 4 years, we've done multiple projects, adding another dozen parking areas to those. So we went from 9 up to 18, up to 24. And then we have more plans on the way for others along the freeways, but we did hit I-10 first, and then this project came at the fruition of that.
Great response. Thank you for that. I'll keep going here, because there's another one that's directly related to what you were presenting on. When it comes to the images that you're capturing with that system, is this something that can be used by State Patrol are folks taking up 2 spots or other non-compliance issues, or is there's privacy issues associated with using that imagery for enforcement of some kind?
Right now, they can access our cameras, but it's only a live feed. Nothing is being recorded. We even has questions from facilities about vandalism on the buildings. Hey, can we look at last night? Well, I can tell how many people showed up and left, but there's no recorded videos. So if there was a violation of illegal parking happening instantaneously, they can maybe go and check it out, but there is no recording. And it's just showing the available parking spaces at this time and what's available.
Okay. That makes sense and consistent with my experience up at the Washington State Department of Transportation. Let's do one more. I want to make sure we save enough time for Mark Savage. From the perspective of a predictive algorithm, right? You're monitoring things real time right now. You're having the imagery to do the spot check to make sure you aren't having drifting on entrance and exit counts. But what are you doing right now? Maybe it might be similar to what Washington State DOT has been doing with the University of Washington relative to predictive algorithms looking into the future based on historical usage. Is that part of your process?
Yeah, so we do have the availability to do a history tracker. So we are going to look at that history graph. We needed to get it started, and of course, it needed to be tested first for accuracy. So yes, during the first 2 or 3 weeks, the contractor and the vendor and I tested all these sites with 99.9% passing colors, no issues whatsoever from the initial turn on with all the technology and the mobile and the rural areas. There's been no issue. So now all that data is 100% available. There's no errors in the system. So we're going to look back in a year, see how full our spaces are, but there is no predictive measurements, no predictive data being used. We know where the trucks are trying to get to. And so if they can't get to one, now with the signs and the information, we do see that trucks are going down to the next one or to the next rest area. So we don't have a lot of searching going on, which we wanted to save that time for the driver, move them down to the next available space or to the next safe exit and get into a private lot at a truck center or fuel center.
Okay. Fantastic. And I'm going to do one more. The questions are starting to pour in now, which is good. As far as availability for parking and the automatic updates of the signs along I-10, are the 5.1 systems, is that automated, or do TMC staff need to do a manual intervention, so to speak, by looking at the cameras and the software together and making those spaces available updates? How automated is that overall?
It is 100% automated. There might be a little bit of a delay in milliseconds going to the 5.11 site and then updating the web page. But our dynamic message signs get the same information as the 5.11 site, and they instantaneously put those numbers up. So even less of a delay. So as a truck pulls out and the camera notices it's vacant, it does a recount in about 5 milliseconds. If it's still vacant, it shoots that data to the sign, and that response there is probably 10 to 30 seconds, and the signs change and that information is relayed.
Okay. Thank you very much, John. I'll let you hit a couple other ones in the Q&A box. You'll be able to, once you pop off camera, see those. There's a couple of additional questions that I know you'll be able to quickly type an answer to. And so let's go ahead and transition. I really appreciate the presentation material. I know the audience does as well. So our final presenter for this morning is Mark Savage from DriveWise. He is the director at DriveWise, North America's largest connected truck platform. He has 30 plus years in law enforcement and transportation safety experience. He leads work on in-cab alerts, truck parking advisories in 22 plus jurisdictions. Thank you, Mark, for being here today. Appreciate your time.
You bet. Thank you, Ted. Also, thank you to my co-presenters and for the excellent information they gave, and STV and ITS America for hosting this as well. So a little background on the company that I work for. DriveWise is a connected truck technology company where we're focused on highway safety programs. So we have let me switch slides there. And that didn't transition. Give me just a second. Here we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Little technology challenges. But anyway, so with the DriveWise is North America's largest connected truck platform. And I'm going to give you a little bit of detail on exactly what that is and how it's applicable to truck parking, not just for the I-10 corridor, but across the country as well. So we're really focused on a safe, efficient, and sustainable commercial transportation system with no crashes and fatalities. Obviously, that's a stretch goal, something that we all want to work towards, and something that I worked towards when I was working for the Colorado State Patrol. I was uh, heavily involved in commercial vehicle safety. And after that, with DriveWise, definitely a focus and something we need to address. As you all know, unfortunately, fatal crashes involving commercial vehicles are on the rise, as are work zone and end of queue crashes. We know that at the same time that the industry is facing a significant demand, an increased demand on freight distribution and supply chain, stretching their ability to get the job done safely and efficiently. And as you all know, the freight volumes are certainly expected to rise over the course of the next few years, further challenging that system as well. So let me talk a little bit specifically about what we're here to talk about today, and that is our connected truck platform and how truck parking alerts fit into that system. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about the history of traveler information systems. We started off and specifically where DriveWise Smart Roadways fits into that. We started off with roadside signs, AM radios, the 511 where you could call in, and then websites and apps, which we've talked about today. And those are all fantastic tools that deliver timely and relevant information to drivers. And then, hopefully in the future, we have connected vehicles where all this information is exchanged seamlessly across the entire network. Right now, where DriveWise fits in is in-vehicle and in-cab messaging. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like here in just a second. But that's kind of the transition of how we feel this solution fits in. The DriveWise network is a free driver app that's integrated into electronic logging devices. As you can see from the picture here, that these electronic logging devices sit in the cab of a commercial motor vehicle. It's how the driver keeps track of their hours of service, their driving hours, their rest, and they're required to have them. So unless exempted, they're required to have these, and the great majority of truck drivers in the country do have them. A lot of trucking companies prohibit drivers from using their cell phone while they're driving for obvious reasons, but at the same time, they are required to have this device. It is generally sitting as you can see, right at the dash, readily visible and available to that driver. So when we developed this platform, we worked with the electronic logging device providers, or the ELD providers across the country, and just about all of them, our software is embedded in these electronic logging devices, and it is used by those drivers for a variety of different purposes. Today, we're going to talk specifically about truck parking alerts, but just so you have an idea of the platform, I wanted to give you a bit more information about the total depth of our software services. Most of you are probably familiar with our bypass service that's on the left. Then we have DriveWise Free, which is where our truck parking alerts fit in. And by the term free, it means that in spite of the fact that you have or don't have DriveWise pre-clear a bypass service, you still can get these alerts. They're free and available to any driver that turns on the alerts for their electronic logging device. And the other two are specific to fleets and law enforcement, so I'm not gonna go into those. But the alerts work by setting up a geofence, and as that truck hits the geofence, we send an alert. It's always on, and to the electronic logging device. We send an alert to that truck to let the driver know timely and relevant information that driver might need. For example, in this specific illustration, we're talking about sudden slowdowns. Truck parking alerts are just one of many alerts, as you can see here, for the DriveWise Free application, and they could be traffic congestion alerts, work zone alerts, but most specifically, what we're talking about today is DriveWise truck parking advisories. So what we do is we take the feed that has been talked about today, and we deliver that to the driver at a specific location as determined uh, by the jurisdiction. For example, in Washington, if they decide they want to deliver an alert to a driver 5 miles before the weigh station or the truck parking facility, or 100 miles before the truck parking facility, it's very easy for us to do. We just put a geofence up. There's no infrastructure involved. We just put a geofence up, and the driver gets that alert at that location. The other thing is there's no in partnership with the states and with the trucking companies, it's not an app the driver has to dig into, pull off to the side of the road and look up the information. It's readily available. It's relevant for their specific location, and it's free to the driver. And I should also add we are on the great majority of the electronic logging devices, but we're also available if the driver does not have or is not required to have an electronic logging device. Then they can download an app that's either iOS or Android. They can download the app and get the exact same alerts for free as well. So our smart roadways alerts, now this is the total number of smart roadways alerts, are available in 22 states and counting. And at the same time, we're also growing the number of trucks that are receiving the alerts. Just in the last 12 months alone, we've seen over 200% increase in the number of drivers that have been receiving these alerts. Now, a lot of these drivers may have alerts turned on their electronic logging device, and some may not. So we're trying to raise awareness about these free alerts so more drivers can get them and get this information that's going to make them more safe and more effective and more efficient. So just wanted to say thank you to all of our presenters, and I think we'll open up for any questions that we might have.
Thank you very much, Mark. There's been a lot of questions, and it looks like most of them have been answered. I want to circle back specifically to just the predictive aspect of truck parking availability. I know that John talked about the Parker Truck app and that connection, which I believe that they have that. Actually, I know that they have a predictive component to that connection. And so can you elaborate either on how either you work with Streetline and or what you're doing at DriveWise that is different? Just describe that a little bit as far as how that works on the predictive side, or did you catch that? I think we might be having some technology challenges as far as Mark's ability to hear my remarks, or maybe it's just me. I'll come back to one more question here in the interest of time. As far as working with private truck parking facilities, and John, if you're still there, or Dr. Ma, I know you answered a little bit in the chat, but maybe you could come on camera and just expand a little bit on how that's worked. I know that even preparing for this webinar, a lot of outreach trying to pull in, Pilot or Flying J or local operators and trying to get their side of the story, and that outreach it takes effort, right? And so how is that felt? What are thoughts in looking into the future related to pulling in that private truck parking facility voice?
Yeah, thank you, Ted. We have the same goal. Let's help get our trucks into safe spots. So we were first developing the system. It went rather quick. It's out there. It's being used. And so as truckers and other companies get used to using it, on the private side wants to do something like that, hey, we're an open book. Come ask us for any answers. Come ask us for any partnerships. There was one question asked earlier, hey, can we reserve some of the spots in the rest areas? Unfortunately, it's a public space. I know there are some apps out there and parking lots that reserve spaces for fees. ADOT's not going to charge anything. We just want to provide information to the drivers to make our roads more safe out there to prevent those backups. So yeah, if one of the trucking companies wanted to reach out with ADOT, come through myself or Victor Yang, you saw his technical lead contact presented by Dr. Ma. Anybody can reach out to ADOT, and we're happy to work with any third party.
Thank you very much, John. Dr. Ma, would you like to share your thoughts on the same question?
Yeah, sure. I guess I think one of the questions was asking the supply and demand. I know based on our truck parking study, in Texas, about 90% of truck parking demand or supply comes from private entities. So definitely, establishing some partnership with the private truck parking facilities to improve, the parking demand, management. I think that's a great idea. We are exploring the partnership. Definitely, I think that's something that we definitely will consider to, because this is the one we just presented out the public parking facilities. That's only 10% in Texas. So definitely there's a great opportunity to collaborate with the private partners to better accommodate the truck parking needs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ma. I think Mark, you're back on now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Technology, it's wonderful, right? So just want to circle back around to your integration, how you partner with a Streetline and the predictive aspect of that, because obviously that component, and even including the reservation aspect that I'm sure will be coming if it's not already here. And so anything down that road that would benefit the audience.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So in regards to the predictive analytics, we'll take any feed that the state or the jurisdiction has decided they want to send out. So if they want to do an analysis or an analytics review of where a space might be available given a certain time and certain time of the day and certain location, we'll be happy to send that feed out or send that alert out given the location that they want. So for example, one of the potential ideas is as a driver is heading to their destination and they know they have about 8 hours of drive time left, and within the last 2 hours, being able to predict the spaces available at the one or two truck parking facilities in that 2 hours would be quite helpful. The issue that we run into, of course, is giving that driver that information when and where they need it without overburdening them. So it is something that we'd absolutely could do and partner with as far as giving predictive analytic information out to drivers. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mark. And we have 2 minutes left. If somebody asks for your email, that's an easy one. Go ahead and type it in the chat, or we'll make sure that goes out in follow up. This last question here is definitely, I would say you're the best one to answer it, Mark. Thinking about nationwide, right? I commented earlier about the 20 plus states that are already actively engaged. What about everybody else? The folks that are coming. I mean, you put up your map, but what if you were to project forward a couple of years? So what are your thoughts about bringing the other folks along? How are those conversations going?
No, that's a great question. I think that any type of technology, as it is implemented, it takes a few true believers to implement, and once we get the cart over the hill, it starts to transition and pick up speed on the way down. This is truly an innovative technology, something that I'm proud to work on, and something that I think contributes significantly to commercial vehicle safety, specifically as it relates to finding and delivering relevant, timely information to drivers about parking.
Thank you very much, Mark. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close for today and respect everybody's time. Thank you to ITS America. Thank you to Mark, to John, to Dr. Ma. Fantastic job. As Victoria mentioned, this webinar was recorded and will be available for your use. And I'm sure that those that presented today would be happy to follow up with you individually to answer any additional questions you have in the days and weeks to come. And so here we are at noon Pacific. So thank you for your attention today. Wonderful job.